I'm Andrew from Ether Automation, and in this video, I'm going to continue on with our ERP series where we build a ERP for manufacturing inside Zoho Creator. So after the last video, we have the products into the ERP, and now we want to sync purchase orders and sales orders. All right. In this video, we're going to be pulling in sales orders and purchase orders from Zoho inventory. In the next one, we're going to push them when a purchase order is created in the system. It pushes it up to Zoho inventory. So with that being said, let me share my screen. And hopefully it's the right screen. Otherwise, this will be a short video. Okay, so I'm inside Zoho Creator. And to sync a sales order, we're going to start with a sales order. We're going to do similar to what we did in the last video, where we set up a standalone function. That standalone function is going to request information from Zoho inventory whenever it's run. And this can be run on a schedule or on a webhook or anything you want to run it. So we're going to start out, we're going to go to workflows, and then we're going to go to functions, and we're going to create a new function. And this function is going to be called sync sales order from inventory. We're going to put it into the default namespace and create the function. So this is going to have very similar architecture to the last one. We want to start out and we want to get the last sync time. Get last sync time. And then we want to call Zoho inventory for sales orders created since that last sync time. So API call to Zoho inventory for new sales orders. And just to note, we want these sales orders to be in a confirmed stage. Sales order must be confirmed. We don't want those draft sales orders. That's going to mess your whole day up. Then for each sales order, we actually need to do a separate API call because we can get all the sales orders, but it didn't give us line items. So we need a separate API call for the line items. So each sales order, get the line items via API. And then we want to check to make sure we're not making duplicates. So check for duplicate sales orders. Then we want to assemble the sales order line items, assemble sales order record, then create record, and then finally update the last sync time. Simple. And let's check to see if the code works. Shabam, it does. Okay, so let's start out here and we want to get the last sync time. So I'm going to make a new tab. I'm going to make two new tabs. The first one is going to open up the sync products from inventory. And the second one is going to open up the actual application and go to variables down here. And we're going to create a new variable. And this is going to be sales order sync time. And we're just going to say this was done sometime last year. Actually, this would be sometime 2 years ago because you're watching this on YouTube. So now it exists right here. I'm going to plunk in the name of this record right here. And then I'm going to go back to the other function we have. Remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel as a developer. Copy and paste what you can. So I'm just going to copy this, go over here and paste it. And this will show me the last sync time from the product sync. But in this case, we're going to switch that to the sales order sync time. And I'm going to delete this line because it looks gross. So now we have the last sync time. Next thing we want to do is do an API call to Zoho inventory to get the sales orders. This is very similar to what we did with products, but the URL is going to be a little bit different. So we're just going to Google something real quick. Zoho inventory API. I'm going to go to the inventory. I'm going to go down to sales orders, click list all sales orders, and boom, we have our URL right here. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to drag in the invoke URL. And the URL string, I'm going to put this. It's going to be cleaned up in a bit. We're going to store responses in all sales orders. This is a GET request. If I look at the sales order, there isn't any other header information, or in the API call, there's no other header information. So we can be extremely lazy and just select the inventory connection. I've made the inventory connection have the scopes that we want. You can see some of that in the last video if you click this thing right here. I'm going to click Insert. Now I'm going to clean up this URL. More specifically, I want let's do these ones right here. I'm going to copy the whole thing and paste it right in here. And now I'm going to type in info, all sales orders, just to see, did I do something weird? Save, execute, boom. I didn't do anything super weird. Great. So sales orders must be confirmed. I don't know if that's something we could do here, but we can do it while we loop through the function. For each sales order, we look here in the API documentation. When we get a response, it's in this nested sales order key. So we are going to go sales order list equals all sales order dot get dot to list. And now we want to go and do for each record, we want to loop through all of those sales orders. We have this sales order must be confirmed. Let's plunk that in right here. So if sales order dot get, and it's going to be something like status or something like that, we can check right here, status, boom, equals draft. Then we're going to do this little trick called a continue. And what this means is that, hey, if the sales order is draft, we're going to continue the loop by going all the way back to the start of the loop. We don't want to continue on here. I don't know why it's called continue. This is one of those computer science things. Next thing we want to do is check for a duplicate sales order. To do that, we're going to check based off of the ID. So sales order check equals sales order, where the Zoho inventory sales order ID equals the sales order dot get, and it's going to be something like ID, sales order ID. Bam. Plug that right in there. So now we're checking, we're getting all the sales orders with the same ID. The way databases work, you'll never have two records with the same ID. So if the sales order check count is greater than zero, then we want to do the same thing. Let's not make duplicates. Let's not do that. So we're going to go continue again. So now we've checked for the sales order is confirmed. We've checked that we're not making a duplicate, and now we want to get the sales order line items. So I'm just going to copy this. Again, I'm lazy as a developer. I'm going to tab this in, make it look a little bit better, and then go back to the sales order API or to the inventory API. Go to retrieve sales order, copy this whole thing, and put it right in here. Now we need the actual organization ID, and then we want the actual sales order. We're going to put a plus, and then sales order. Actually, it's this variable right here. Let's do our magical copy paste and click save. Great. So this will give us the sales order line items, right? And that will actually look like this. We can go down and see that the line items look like this. So now we want to assemble the sales order line items. If you have watched the previous video, you'll know that line items or subform rows in Creator can be a little weird. So we're going to piggyback on top of the knowledge that we had from that video, and we're going to assemble the line items. So let's start by getting those line items put together. So line items. Now that we have a list of line items, we're going to want to make a sales order line item collection. And this is going to be a collection, much like the previous video. So now we're going to loop. So for each element, we're going to do line item. And within that, we are going to define a sales order line item. So now that we've defined the line item, right at the end here, we can say line item collection dot insert and a sales order row. And now we can plug in our mapping between this line and this line. And I'm going to do that probably at 2 times speed here. There we go. So now that we have our line items in this collection, now we just want to create the sales order. So I'm going to drag in the add record. Boom, we're doing a sales order. I'm going to put in the sales date, sales order name, sales order number, the status, and this. As well as I want to add the line items here. So the line items, this is the one that we've just created up here. The order dates, sales order name. The rest of this can be mapped as normal. Some of them are obvious, like this Zoho inventory sales order ID. The status, I actually don't remember the statuses we have, but probably when you create them, the status should be something like received. So we're going to plug that in as a hard-coded. The sales order number, the sales order name. I'm lazy. We're going to call the name the same thing as the ID. And then the order date and the sales order number. Both of those you can actually see in the sales order record. So when we get a sales order, there's the dates, there's a status here, but we're going to grab the dates as well as the sales order number. So this would create the record, and then the last thing we want to do is copy from the other function that we already had. So last sync record dot last runtime is this thing right here equals boom. So I can click save, and I'm going to actually check to see if we have any sales orders in my test data. We have a lot. Oh, and the status is pending. Okay, so we're going to change this from draft to pending. So now when I click save and I execute it, in theory, it worked. I'm going to go into Zoho Creator and I'm going to check, did we get sales orders? Looks like we got a lot of sales orders. I can open them up. I can click edit. Boom, here's our products. It's queued for production. We've got the sales order number here, the order date here. The status is received. Yeah, so in theory, in some other future videos, we are going to be able to trigger some workflows for this available inventory on hand, received product, built, etc. This will be built in future videos that you will see. Now, we can do the exact same thing for purchase orders. It's very simple as well. I'm going to click back, and I am going to do another one of these with purchase orders. So new function, sync purchase orders from inventory. Now, because we're developers, we're gonna basically do the entire thing. We're just gonna copy it. We're gonna paste it right in here. And the only thing we really need to change is this variable, switching this from sales orders to purchase orders, and then maybe some mapping down here at the bottom. So let's go ahead and chug through that. So purchase order sync. We're going to say this sometime back in 2022. So I go into my function. This is purchase orders. I'm going to plug this one right in here. I can look at the API and scroll down to purchase orders to see, hey, is purchase orders any different? No, not really. So we're just going to change this over to purchase orders and then switch this variable to purchase orders as well, because that is a different value there. Plug in purchase orders. I can assume the status is still pending. The sales order ID is not sales order ID anymore. It's purchase order ID. I'm going to plunk that in here, plunk this in here. I'm going to switch this from sales orders to purchase orders. Going to go down here, and it's not sales order when we get the individual line. Let's actually see what that looks. If we retrieve a specific, it's purchase order, but it's still line items. So I'm going to plunk that in here. Purchase order, we get the line items. And now we have something that is slightly different. So this here is based on the sales order line items. But if I look at the API names or the form names, you'll see that it's not sales order line items we're doing anymore. It's purchase order line items. But we still have the same products, quantity, and status. So products is still the same, quantity is still the same. The status may be different. So we can go and check that now to see what does a purchase order status look like. And the status, you know what? Let's just plunk in the status as is issued. And then down here, rather than putting it to sales orders, we're going to plug into purchase orders. And because I am incredibly lazy, I'm going to drag this in. So we're going to want the date issued, the PO number, the status, and the vendors, the PO ID. Let's click insert. And then we know that the line items is this collection up here. I haven't changed the variable name. Again, lazy developers. Let's try and do less work. But the rest of this will need some kind of mapping. So I'm going to go back up to here. Sales order, the date issue, the PO number, right here, purchase order number. The status is hard-coded. We're going to hard-code it to draft. The PO ID is this purchase order ID. We're going to plug that in right here. And then the vendors. The vendors is the only thing that's different. I haven't brought in the vendors yet. I'm going to cover that in a later video. So for the time being, I'm going to take this line out, put in there. We create the record, and then it updates the last sync time. So now I'm going to save, and I'm going to check to see if I have any purchase orders. Shabam, I got a lot of them, so I'm going to run this. There you go. We have all our sales orders or our purchase orders in. You're not going to see this because of the editing. The thing you're going to want to note is this variable here, or this key here. If we look at what it says in the API documentation, there's an underscore, but the reality is there's no underscore, and you should test before you record on YouTube sometimes. So I've just imported all the purchase orders, and if I go to the purchase orders module, boom, there we are. We've got the line items, the PO number, the date issued, and the status. Now, in the next few videos, we're going to link things to work orders and create some work orders. And these functions will be modified to a certain extent. Or maybe we'll have new functions. I don't know. I haven't got that far in the future. But you can set this up so that a webhook or a cron or something else triggers these to pull in that data so that your Zoho inventory and your ERP system here have the same data. It's synced all the time. So I hope this video was helpful. I will see you in the next video.